this afternoon. What we really wanted to do is give the council an opportunity to talk about the action that we just took in approving our budget priority memo. The approval of the budget is one of the most important tasks that the council has and is empowered with by the voters. And so we wanted to make sure that this year the council has an opportunity to speak to the public about what those priorities are early on in the process. And each of the council members, as they come up, will talk to you about, again, the action that we just took in approving the budget priority memo and their specific contributions to that memo. We will start with Council District 1. Councilmember Papakala.
Well, thank you, Council President, and thank you to the media for showing up. I'm going to really cut to the chase here. I'm calling for new lifeguard positions in the FY23 budget. Safe access to our ocean, beaches, and bays is not just a priority, it is an obligation for our city. Our lifeguards are constantly watching those in the water. They are our first responders and must be staffed to meet our needs and save lives. I'm requesting an additional 15 lifeguard positions. Our beaches and bays are world-class and they attract hundreds of thousands of visitors every year, providing millions in revenue for our city and local economy. And due to COVID-19, our beaches and bays have become an outdoor haven for those seeking escape from the indoors. The increased usage resulted in all-time high call volume for cliff and marine rescues in 2021. And while federal and state entities assist with law enforcement at migration events like the Panga boats capsizing, there is only one agency in the water saving lives. Those lifesavers are the San Diego lifeguards. I am also calling for the adoption of a pilot program to increase feminine health access. Nearly 2/3 of low-income women with periods report that they are unable to afford menstrual products, frequently having to decide between purchasing food and other necessities or menstrual products. To combat this, in May 2021, the County of San Diego launched Free for Me, a successful pilot program which installed 58 product dispensers in 24 county-owned public-facing facilities. The pilot was met with great success. I request the city initiate a similar program, placing free feminine hygiene dispensers in 92 city-owned facilities, targeting libraries, recreation centers, and beach comfort stations, especially within under-resourced communities. Nobody should have to decide between a meal or a tampon, and women should not carry this financial burden alone. I want to thank Council President Elo Rivera for this opportunity and for all of us attending today. You can find more details on my two specific requests as others in my full budget memo posted on my website. And with that, I'm going to introduce the council member from District 3, Stephen Whitburn.
Thank you very much, Councilmember LaCava. Thanks to all of you for being here this afternoon. Thank you as well to Council President Elo Rivera for coordinating this opportunity. My constituents have been vocal about what they want to see in the city budget this year. Our office has received many calls and emails, and we encourage residents to take a brief survey to help guide our budget priorities. The top priorities of those who responded are: number one, solving the homelessness crisis; number two, improving pedestrian and mobility safety; number three, repairing our streets and sidewalks; and number four, improving police response times and fighting crime. The top priority by far is addressing the homelessness crisis. We have to help people off our streets by funding more shelter beds and creating more supportive housing to treat those with mental health issues as well as addictions. We need to fund more personal outreach to homeless individuals to make them aware of how they can access services and housing. We need to prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place by providing rental assistance and helping people to avoid being evicted. We have a shortage of workers at nonprofits that serve the homeless, so we need to continue to fund programs that train people on how to work in that field. And for a longer-term solution, we need to build more housing, and that is affordable to more people. Homelessness is worse in cities where rents are highest compared to incomes. San Diego's average rents are too high compared to our average incomes. This city council and this mayor are unified in prioritizing solutions to our homelessness crisis. We are finally doing the right things to end the widespread homelessness that exists in our city today. And with this budget, we can accelerate the process of getting people off the sidewalks and into homes. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Council President Pro Tem, Monica Montgomery Stepp, who represents Council District 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Good evening, everyone. I'll be trying to be as quick as possible as well. As a city government working through our own challenges of race and equity, we often create barriers to access and fully address the needs of the people that we serve. My office has invested in our communities by advocating for change through our important measures, including the Office of Race and Equity, which we have secured funding for since the FY20 budget, and also is included in the resolution that we passed today as a full council. We are also entirely focused on passing the draft ordinance of the Commission on Police Practices, which has successfully received funding in our FY2021 budget. Together, we are facilitating changes that will create more significant outcomes for every single San Diegan, but it is also time to invest in a way that will make a better quality of life for all who live in District 4. This means partnering with our community to ensure that they are heard on needs such as streetlights and infrastructure investments like our paved roads and sidewalks. While we have seen wins, we must do more. That means continuing to advocate for full funding for an Oak Park library, a community library resource that has been neglected for many, many years. Our communities deserve hubs of knowledge and culture that are gateways to literacy formation and essential service to our communities. We have supported this Oak Park's efforts, the Oak Park community efforts to have a sustainable space for our youth and adults, and access to public libraries is a fundamental right for our constituents. In addition, the Emerald Hills Community Park is one of the few outdoor public spaces in District 4. Despite calls from the communities to renovate the playground equipment, restrooms, and drinking fountains, the city has not upgraded this park for over 50 years. The FY20 adopted budget allocated funds for a general development plan. However, the next step in the park's improvement process is to allocate funds for design and construction. When we mention livable spaces, that includes a space where constituents have access to a park that is updated, clean, and safe. And lastly, I just want to highlight my request for expansion of lighting and traffic calming measures at 47th and Hartley and also 47th and Hilltop in the Choice View community. It is unfortunate that this intersection has brought multiple accidents and fatalities, which continues to traumatize our community. So including traffic safety measures will ultimately reflect my philosophy of public safety by environmental design. Investing in our communities always benefit us all in the long term. Addressing these goals is also closely aligned with our equity, closing those equity gaps, and I look forward to working with all of the council to make sure that these items are granted in the District 4 community. And at this time, I would like to introduce the council members of District 8, Councilmember Vivian Moreno.
First and foremost, it's great to see everybody here. It's great to see you guys, and I want to thank the council president for this opportunity. I will try not to get foggy, but somebody give me a sign here. So my priority since I took office has always been included in ensuring that the residents of District 8 receive the equitable services and resources they need for a better quality of life, including the building of more housing for our working families, repairing our streets and roads, ensuring safe routes to school, advocating for more parks and libraries for our youth, and promoting initiatives that bring jobs to the district. I would like to highlight some of the very important capital improvement projects in District 8 that need to be prioritized in this next budget. Bayer Park in San Isidro is a top priority. I've been advocating for the development of Bayer Park since I was elected, and I was thrilled to learn that this project was recently awarded $8.5 million from state Prop 68 funds. The design is complete and the park still requires $3.5 million to move forward, and it's critical that those final dollars be identified in the fiscal year 23 budget. In Barrio Logan, funding traffic calming measures in and around Barrio Logan truck route is critical to ensuring the safety of our residents. Also moving forward with Boston Avenue Linear Park is very important so we can increase the green space available in the community. Southwest Neighborhood Park is an 11.5 acre park that will include a children's playground and picnic area. It's something that Otay Mesa community residents have been waiting for over 30 years. It has been approved by the Park and Recreation Board and is awaiting funding for construction in fiscal year 23. Throughout District 8, there are many locations where sidewalks need to be installed, particularly a few high-volume locations in the Otay Mesa Nestor area. I will be pushing very hard to have these locations addressed in the upcoming budget. I also want to point out the need for the budget to fund unimproved streets, the very racist unimproved streets and alleys in the communities that have them the most. I particularly have listed 2 locations in Stockton and Nestor that need investment in my budget priority memo. I look forward to working strongly advocating for all these priorities during the fiscal year 23 budget process. Thank you, everybody, and with that, I will give it back to our council president.
Thank you, Councilor Moreno. Just to put a bow on things, I will speak quickly to some of the priorities that I was proud to support and that there was significant support for amongst my council colleagues in the budget priority memo that we voted on earlier today. The first is an investment in our climate action plan and the implementation and funding of that climate action plan. About a half a decade ago, San Diego passed a climate action plan with a lot of fanfare. Unfortunately, that was probably the high point in terms of climate action in San Diego. There simply has not been the investment that we need in climate action. We have a moral, we have a financial, and we have a governing responsibility to ensure that we invest in the plans that we put forward. Later this year, we're going to have an opportunity to pass a new climate action plan, and that needs to be funded accordingly. The good thing about that is it means an improved quality of life for everyone. It means more streetlights, it means more walkable, bikeable communities. It means safer, better neighborhoods for everyone, and I'm proud to support that. The second item that I'd like to point to that had significant support is the continued investment in the Office of Child and Youth Success. About 2 decades ago, San Diego saw a rash of youth violence, and that rash of youth violence was met with some unfortunate responses. After years of research, we found out that what we really needed was more investment in young people. We established the Office of Child and Youth Success last year. We need to fully fund that office to ensure that we are investing in positive opportunities for young people that won't only ensure that they can meet their potential in life, but can ensure that each and every one of our neighborhoods are the safe, healthy, and productive places that we know that they should be. So investment in our environment, investment in our youth, those were just 2 of the many things that I was excited to see the council prioritize, and we took action earlier today. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues for the rest of the process. I appreciate you all being out here today, and I think we probably are all happy to answer questions if you have them. Thank you.
I have one for Ms. Moreno. Question? There you go. Let me find you right here. There you go. I'm David from KUSI. As you well know, there's a beautiful state-of-the-art high school built in your district. It's almost done. Many years have passed, and a lot of the folks I talk to in the community say, what about that eyesore at 28th and Logan, the old public library? Is there going to be any funding someday to renovate that, or you have plans for that?
Absolutely.
Tell me, because I talked to the former superintendent, and she goes, I wasn't even aware of that. So you're going to have this brand new school there with this eyesore with a magnet for homeless.
Yeah, so for many years, that library was really, the library for the community for many, many, many leaders. Unfortunately, it was when the new library was built just a block or 2 away, there was no plan. The city had no plan as to what to do with that library. If you look at the difference between what we planned with the San Ysidro Library, that is because the old San Ysidro Library, which is a historical library, is becoming a teen center in the Park and Rec because we put a plan in there. So when I first came into office, that absolutely was one of the priorities. We had a lot of nonprofits ask us if they could, go into that facility and have their nonprofit there. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the nonprofits didn't want to take on the burden of fixing that dilapidated library. And so, and the city of San Diego tried to sell it, I think about 3 or 4 times. When I was the land use and housing chair, they actually were proposing that an item come forward for them to sell it. And I said, over my dead body, you're gonna sell that piece of land that belongs to the community. So recently, I wanna say about a year ago, Senator Hueso came forward with the bill to allocate state funding for that particular project. So the state is taking a very robust effort in fixing a lot of the historical sites in the state of California. Via Montezuma is next on the line. So we're gonna get some funding from the state to help renovate it. We'd love to partner with a nonprofit. I know the Bomberos of San Diego have expressed their interest. We would love to have that facility rejuvenated and having folks, active and honestly take back that space. So yes, thank you for that question. We are on it. I think these are important things that we need to look at as legislators when we're transitioning facilities. At those facilities, not only do they have a very important, or did they have a very important role in the many lives of a lot of Latino leaders in San Diego and beyond, but we need to keep those facilities active. So thank you for that question.
So basically, it's gonna be a while.
Well, there's a process for it. And that's one of the things that I've been advocating for is state and federal funding. Just last year, District 8 got over $30 million of state funding from the CTC, from Prop 68, and we can't do this on our own. That's the key thing here in San Diego. Don't get me started on Otay Mesa because you guys are going to be here for half an hour, but we need state and federal funding. Buyer Park is also, we got $8.5 million of Prop 68 funds. We need to continue to push staff to apply for these funds. We're the second largest city of the state of California. And the thing is that we don't apply for these funds. So this is something that is obviously changing with the new administration and also with us here. So something that I will continue to advocate. Notice I put in a plug for Via Montezuma. So. But thank you for the question. I appreciate it.
I have a question for Councilmember Whitburn, please. My name is Kelsey with Fox 5. Just wanted to touch on homelessness since you mentioned it was a top priority for you. I know you're the closest district since Councilmember Campbell's in here, but I went out to the one along Sports Arena. I'm sure that you're familiar along the Midway district. Talked to some people there. They said they want permanent housing. You mentioned that's a goal of yours, so I'm hoping you could expand on that goal to increase permanent housing.
Increasing permanent housing is a fundamental solution to solving the homelessness crisis that we have in San Diego today. The situation in San Diego today is unacceptable. People are very frustrated. I've lived in San Diego for a long time, and I've never seen it like this. The solutions to homelessness are very complicated. Everybody wants to solve homelessness. If it were easy to solve, we would have done it a long time ago. But it's very complicated, and there are many different things that have to occur in order to solve the homelessness crisis. One of them is the construction of more affordable housing. This city council in the past year has approved every single affordable housing project that has come before it. We are that committed to ensuring that we get people from the streets and into housing. We are expecting to have more affordable housing created by the developments over in the Midway project. There was a lot of affordable housing being built downtown. One of the challenges we see is that in cities where the average rent takes up a large proportion of the average income, that is when you see homelessness start to accelerate in that city. We have crossed that threshold in San Diego. Our rents take up too much of the average person's income. We have seen homelessness increase to a level that none of us have seen before in this city. And absolutely addressing it by creating the housing that people need is a fundamental part of that solution.
Okay, and one last question for you as well. Just following up back, with the camp, I saw that the city said 7 out of 183 accepted help from the city to go to shelters. I know COVID-19, as you mentioned, the shelter crisis declaration has had a huge impact, of course. But do you think that's because there are no beds or no intake because of COVID-19, or do you think people just don't want to go?
There are a variety of reasons why people don't accept shelter. One of them is a lot of the folks who have been unsheltered for a long time are not trusting of people. And so we have increased our outreach to the unsheltered population, where we build relationships, build trust. And over time, we find that people do accept shelter, people do accept services. The outreach that we're doing is the most effective that we've ever done in San Diego. There are other people who have substance use problems. They're afraid if they accept shelter that they might not be able to continue what they're doing with substances. Many have mental health needs. There are a variety of different reasons why people don't accept shelter, but we just have to be persistent, continue to encourage people, continue to create the kinds of shelter that people will accept. You have folks maybe who are elderly and are concerned about being in a shelter with other folks. In COVID-19, you have folks concerned about being in a congregate environment. So there are a number of reasons why people may shy away from it, but we are working very hard to encourage people to create the environment where people are willing to accept shelter and services.
Thank you.
I just can add real quickly to that. Councilor Whitburn did a fantastic job of touching upon the reasons why someone may not accept help. One of the things that also needs to be considered is who is offering the help. So for all of us as people, who asks us if we want help is going to play a huge factor in whether or not we accept it. As Councilor Whitburn was saying, having that very diverse team with a variety of sets of skills and experiences and backgrounds out there doing the work is essential. So the data that you hear is dependent upon who is offering that help. And we see very, very different responses depending on who it is that's lending a hand. And that cannot be forgotten by the public at large.
Can you also touch too on COVID-19, how much that's impacting shelter intake with staffing shortages and, bed shortages, if you will?
I don't think I'm qualified to speak to that.
Is anyone?
Yeah.
Wanting to speak on that?
Sure. Due to the increase in the Omicron variant and the rapidity with which it was spreading, the city effectively stopped accepting new folks into shelters in mid-December. And that situation has continued, and that's one of the reasons why we've seen more and more people unhoused in the last couple of months. With the Omicron variant beginning to decline, the city of San Diego has been in communication with the county and the state, and a determination has been made that we can now begin to accept individuals into shelter. So we will be doing that. And I am hopeful that as a result of that, we'll start to see the numbers of folks who are on the streets gradually declining.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, is the city having a policy of housing first, or like some shelters ask you to be clean to have this policies, and some other cities have policies that housing first and then you go to that environment? What is the policy of the city on this? Or it's a mixed one, it depends. Are you leaving all to the shelters to the side? But
I'm not sure that I can speak to each individual shelter. I certainly support the housing first approach. And I think many of the experts in San Diego who are following best practices to try to ensure that folks who are unsheltered get into housing believe in the housing first approach. And essentially that means that regardless of a person's other challenges, we believe that they need to be housed. And they're only going to be able to address some of their other issues, whether it be mental health issues, whether it be substance issues, if they are in a stable housing environment. So I believe strongly, as do many, that offering people shelter and housing first is the best way to get them back on their feet.
and so how are you encouraging the shelters to follow that policy, policy, that kind of structure? Are you encouraging them to, if you do housing first, we're gonna give you this amount, or you're not doing, how are you gonna encourage them? Because it depends on them, so it's up to them.
I would have to leave that as a conversation that the administration has with individual shelters. I'm not sure that I could speak to how individual shelters are addressing that.
And for the affordable housing, are we gonna leave, is the city gonna invest in affordable housing, or are we gonna leave it to the developers to do the affordable housing? For some developers are saying that it's not profitable enough. Others are saying we do it for the benefit for the community, but not all of them. Are we gonna push a little bit more for as a city, or what's the policy of the city?
I think you have a city council today that is more committed to the creation of affordable housing than any city council that has been in San Diego in the past. Every affordable housing project that has come before this city council has been approved. We are more and more requiring new developments to include affordable housing. We have increased the fee that developers must pay if they choose not to actually build the affordable housing. And as we look to new developments, this city council has uniformly looked at the amount of affordable housing they will provide in determining what we think of those projects.
I just want to tag on to what Councilmember Whitburn did. He had a great answer. There's a couple of other aspects to question. One is this mayor and this council has been very aggressive about streamlining regulations to make it easier to build housing and reduce the cost, which allows developers to deliver affordable housing. The other part of it is that the best tool that we have to leverage is our public land. And so I introduced an idea to build not only the city, but institutions, the county, et cetera, to take advantage of our publicly owned land and take that off the table as one element of the cost to make sure that we can develop new housing. It continues to be a challenge. We continue to rely on tax credits. We continue to rely on affordable nonprofit builders to be able to deliver that. But I'm very excited about the commitment of this council and this mayor to really explore every option that we have to be able to deliver what I like to call income restricted housing. So there's no question about what we're talking about because as Councilmember Whitburn and Council President Elo Rivera has pointed out, we need to deliver the housing so that those people who live unsheltered or in shelters have a real home place to call home and have a roof over their head.
No more questions? All right, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.